Back in the early days of cartoons, before the Saturday morning sugar rush and the era of corporate branding, animation was the Wild West. No rules, no logic, and sometimes no sanity. These weren't polished Disney fairy tales or the Looney Tunes you grew up with. Nope, these were the weirdos, the forgotten freak shows of the cartoon world. In this video, we're cracking open the vault and digging out 10 of the strangest, most bizarre cartoons from the past that you've probably never even heard of. Plus, a bonus cartoon if you stay to the end. These are the ones that slipped through the cracks, and maybe for good reason. That's today on Rerun Zone. Fantasy, sci-fi, nostalgia, Rerun Zone. The Peanut Vendor, 1933. Okay guys, let's kick things off with this truly strange little piece of animation. The Peanut Vendor, while not technically a cartoon, is early stop-motion animation that was created by Len Lai, a New Zealand-born experimental filmmaker and artist. It's a quirky little musical short, less than 3 minutes long. It mixes puppetry, stop-motion animation, and synchronized sound, which was rare at the time. At the center is a monkey puppet with glassy eyes, rubbery limbs, and a manic energy that ramps up with every frame. He dances, he flails, he belts out a Cuban rumba tune.
A peanut you will long for later on, too late the peanut vendor will be gone.
He dances with his dismembered tail. No, really. And all while selling his peanuts. Len Lai was a groundbreaking experimental filmmaker, known for combining abstract art with motion. Though not a household name like Disney or Fleischer, Lai brought avant-garde sensibilities to his work. The Peanut Vendor is a prime example of that. The short doesn't really tell a story as much as it's a pure sensory experience. Twitchy visuals, primitive sound, and puppetry that walks the line between brilliant and bizarre. It's an oddity for sure, and it makes my list of the top 10 strange cartoons from the past. You can see it in its restored form on YouTube. The Sunshine Makers, 1935. Now, what do you think would happen if cheerfulness were a weapon? Well, that's the bizarre premise behind The Sunshine Makers, a 1935 color short from Van Buren Studios, directed by Burt Gillette and Ted Eschball, both heavyweights in early animation. In this Technicolor oddity, red-suited happy little gnomes live in a land of eternal sunshine. They bottle sunlight like milk in glass jars and march in military-style formation to wage an all-out campaign of happiness on a tribe of gloomy little blue goblins who like the darkness and like being miserable. Using their glowing glass jars like bombs, the gnomes blast the goblins, leaving their foes basking in artificial happiness. There's no real spoken dialogue, just an upbeat musical score, an expressive animation that makes the whole thing feel a little unreal, with gnomes' grins stretching just a little too wide. It looks light and happy on the surface, but it's just plain weird underneath, with the happy gnomes forcing liquid sunshine down the goblins' throats.
I don't want to be happy. I want to be sad. I don't want to be happy.
A lot of people see it as more than a goofy kid short. They think it's making a point about how society pushes people to be happy all the time, whether they want to be or not. Or maybe it just reflects the cheerful attitude that people were expected to have during the Great Depression. On the surface though, it's innocent, but dig a little deeper and it's basically a propaganda film. Yet another cartoon in the definitely strange category. In My Merry Oldsmobile, 1931. Up next, a cartoon that's basically just a car commercial. But not just any commercial. This one's packed with innuendo, slapstick, and a well-dressed villain. In My Merry Oldsmobile was produced by Fleischer Studios. The same crew behind Popeye and Betty Boop. The short features a song that was made popular in 1905 with lyrics that are suggestive for the time.
You can go as far as you like with me in my merry Oldsmobile.
This short follows a young couple who fall in love with the help of an automobile. It's one big musical ad for Oldsmobile with a sing-along chorus, a jazzy tune, and visual gags that only the Fleischers could pull off. The cartoon is in the follow the bouncing ball style, which was popular at the time. In a somewhat disturbing opening, the villain is a peeping Tom who tries to ruin the couple's romance by busting into the girl's room and tempting her with candy. In the end, the couple escapes thanks to their trusty Oldsmobile. It's a story that's built entirely around promoting a product, which was pretty rare at the time, but it's also packed with double entendres and visual winks that would have made the Hays Code censors sweat. Monkey Doodle, 1931. You think the last three cartoons were weird? Things get really strange with this cartoon. You'll never mistake this Les Elton production with Fleischer Studios animation. It's primitive by comparison. Monkey Doodle is supposed to be a jungle-themed musical cartoon, but in several scenes, it looks like it's set on a tropical island. The short seems like a jam session inside a lunatic asylum. The plot? Well, there really isn't one. The monkeys dance, swing from trees, and engage in a series of loosely connected musical gags. Then there's the dog that wears pants that hang below his tail, and the female monkey at the end with her bare, well-developed breasts hanging out. There's also missing audio from several sections on every known copy. There's some speculation that the audio was removed due to its racist nature, but we'll probably never know for sure. There's no complete version with the original soundtrack that has ever been found. The short is driven by its bouncy jazz soundtrack and loose animation style, which gives everything a rubbery, chaotic feel. And like many cartoons from this era, Monkey Doodle has racial caricatures that really haven't aged well. Still, as a time capsule of early 1930s animation, it's a fascinating look at how studios were willing to throw anything on the screen just to grab attention. Les Elton wasn't in the same league as Disney or Fleischer, but he certainly wasn't afraid to get weird. Little Match Girl, 1937. Let's shift gears for a minute from bizarre to heartbreaking. The Little Match Girl, released in 1937 by Columbia Pictures, is an animated adaptation of Hans Christian Andersen's tragic fairy tale, and it's about as far from slapstick as 1930s cartoons get. Produced by Columbia's Screen Gems division and directed by Arthur Davis, the short tells the story of a poor girl shivering in the snow, trying to sell matches to survive. With every match she lights, she sees comforting visions, warm fireplaces, festive dinners, and glimpses of a better life. But each vision fades as the match burns out, and reality returns colder than before. In the final moments, as she struggles to reach the comforting heat of a candle, an angel appears and lifts her spirit gently into the sky. There's no dialogue, just soft music and haunting imagery that deliver an emotional gut punch without saying a word. There's no comedy here, just rich, technicolor visuals, haunting music, and a gut punch of an ending that likely left 1930s audiences stunned. For a studio better known for its more upbeat fare, this cartoon stands out as unusually emotional, poetic, and yes, deeply strange by the standards of its time. It's beautifully made, completely heartbreaking, and not at all what you'd expect from a Depression-era cartoon. You might only watch it once, but you'll never forget it. Tulips Shall Grow, 1942. I thought we were done with heavy cartoons, but here comes George Powell's early work in stop-motion animation with a series called Puppetoons. Tulips Shall Grow was produced in 1942 and is widely considered the strangest and most haunting of the series. This short stands out for its surreal, unsettling tone and unusually dark subject matter for an animated film of its era. Tulips Shall Grow tells the story of a young Dutch couple whose idyllic life is shattered by an invasion of faceless, robotic screwball soldiers, a thinly veiled allegory for the Nazi invasion of Holland during World War II. The film's depiction of war is strikingly bleak. The screwballs march in, destroy the couple's home and the landscape, and leave devastation in their wake. The animation style, with its wooden puppets and mechanical movements, adds to the eerie, almost nightmarish atmosphere. Critics and historians note its honest portrayal of the horrors of war through the lens of stop-motion puppetry. The contrast between the innocent, childlike puppets and the grim mechanical invaders creates a uniquely unsettling experience that is unlike anything else in the Puppetoon series. While other Puppetoons, such as the Jasper series, are controversial for different reasons, Tulip Shall Grow is singled out for its surreal, off-kilter sensibility and its willingness to tackle dark, real-world themes in a medium typically reserved for lighter fare. It's a Greek Life, 1936. This next one comes from Van Buren Studios. Yes, the same crew behind the Sunshine Makers. And it's a bizarre mythology-themed entry from the Rainbow Parade series. It's a pretty amusing, if somewhat strange little entry on our list. It's a Greek Life takes us to a colorful cartoon version of ancient Greece, where a bumbling centaur cobbler is hired to fix Mercury's winged sandals. Of course, he puts them on instead and takes off on a chaotic joyride through the heavens. The short is filled with wild animation and there's very little dialogue, but a symphony of sound effects and frantic music pushing the action forward. It's pure cartoon mayhem dressed in a toga. Van Buren's style is all over this one, less polished than Disney or Fleischer, but bursting with energy and off-kilter humor. It's bright, weird, and the pacing never lets up. It's like if ancient mythology met Saturday morning cartoons and then took a left turn into insanity. Bottles, 1936. This next cartoon may look like a whimsical pharmacy fantasy, but it dives headfirst into surreal horror territory. Bottles was produced by Warner Brothers and directed by Hugh Harman, released in 1936 as part of their Merry Melodies series. The story takes place in an old-time pharmacist's shop at night, where he's mixing up a medicine and pours the concoction into a bottle that's labeled with a crossbones and has a skull as a bottle stopper. Doesn't seem like a very good idea. He then falls asleep at the table, and the bottle becomes a moving skeleton that doses the pharmacist with a shrinking potion. Suddenly, the bottles on the shelves all come to life in a burst of animated chaos, including crying baby bottles and bottles of scotch and rum that dance and sing.
Down in the bottle there's a funny-looking humor. He plays the rubber on the tuba down in Cuba. Oh, when his apple said an apple, but his chapel run to grapple with his humper, deeply burns it to the boopa-doopa-doopa.
But before long, things get darker. The bottle of poison unleashes skeletons, witches, and monstrous spirits that torment the poor pharmacist. In one frightening scene, the pharmacist is sent through a maze of fiery bottles and tubes by the skeleton bottle, while it laughs maniacally in the background. Visually, the short mixes 1930s musical flair with some surprisingly creepy imagery. The tone of the short quickly turns manic and eerie. It's classic Harman, a blend of fantasy, slapstick, and mild terror, all wrapped into one Technicolor cartoon. It's got more horror vibes than most modern kids' movies. Honestly, this one should have aired on Halloween. A Swiss Trick, 1931. This one's a classic example of the surreal, off-brand animation produced by Van Buren Studios during the early sound era. This 7-minute short stars the original Tom and Jerry, the human duo, not the famous cat and mouse, as they embark on a series of unpredictable and bizarre adventures in the Swiss Alps. The cartoon features the rubber hose animation style that was popular at the time. Objects and characters morph, the laws of physics are ignored, and the world feels alive in a dreamlike, unpredictable way. The plot is basically just loosely connected gags, with Tom and Jerry riding a mountain train that breaks down, are aided by a comically thin St. Bernard, get left behind, and are then booted down the mountain by a herd of goats after playing their horn. The short, surreal tone is highlighted by wild gags, like a piece of Swiss cheese on a leash, and a finale where Tom and Jerry steal cheese, become riddled with holes, and are then chased down the mountain by mice who mistake them for cheese. This ending is one of the most bizarre and disturbing moments in the Van Buren Tom and Jerry series. While a Swiss trick isn't as strange as some cartoons I've mentioned, its blend of surreal humor, rubber hose antics, and a deeply strange ending makes it a standout example of early 1930s animation that's slightly unsettling by today's standards. This cartoon is a fascinating relic if you're a fan of vintage and strange animation. Honorable mention, Dinnertime, 1928. Among Paul Terry's Farmer Alfalfa sound transition cartoons, Dinnertime is widely considered the strangest and most historically significant. This cartoon stands out for several reasons. It was the first publicly released sound cartoon featuring Farmer Alfalfa, debuting just a month before Disney's Steamboat Willie. In Dinnertime, Farmer Alfalfa is portrayed as an irritable butcher fending off a relentless pack of hungry hounds. The cartoon's animation style is very crude and disjointed, with limited movement and odd synchronization between the visuals and the early sound effects. This gives the short an unsettling, almost chaotic atmosphere, especially compared to later, more polished sound cartoons. The story itself is a bizarre, noisy sequence of slapstick gags, with Farmer Alfalfa desperately trying to keep control as the dogs outwit him at every turn. The relentless action, harsh sound, and chaotic nature all give it a very strange feel. But remember, this is 1928 and the very dawn of the art of animation. Animation historians often cite Dinnertime as a feverish, off-kilter experiment in early sound animation, making it not only the strangest of the early Farmer Alfalfa sound cartoons, but also a fascinating artifact of the transition from silent to sound cartoons. Willie Whopper in Hell's Fire, 1934. Last up, we head to hell for one of the most obscure and surreal entries on this list. While several Willie Whopper cartoons venture into bizarre territory, Hell's Fire from 1934 stands out as the strangest and most off-brand entry in the series. This cartoon takes Willie and his dog on a literal journey to hell itself, making it one of the most surreal and controversial animated shorts of the 1930s. In Hell's Fire, Willie and his dog climb a volcano, and when they reach the top, Willie tosses a rock down the volcano that hits the devil on the noggin. The devil is pissed and sends up fiery hands to grab them and pull them down into hell. There, they encounter Satan himself, a three-headed hellhound, and a bizarre parade of historical and fictional damned souls. The cartoon features Napoleon Bonaparte, Emperor Nero fiddling while things burn, Cleopatra, Rasputin performing Russian dances, Dr. Jekyll transforming into Mr. Hyde, and, most controversial for the time, a personification of prohibition being force-fed alcohol by demons with a funnel. What makes this cartoon particularly strange is its gleeful celebration of hell as a party atmosphere instead of a place of punishment. The cartoon was produced in early Cinecolor, a limited palette color process because Disney had the exclusive rights to 3-strip Technicolor at the time. The vibrant but crude coloring adds to the surreal, fever dreamlike quality of the animation. A true strange classic. So what happened to these cartoons? Well, some were too strange, some too off-brand, and some just plain got buried by time. But they're a reminder that animation's golden age wasn't all princesses and slapstick. Sometimes it was just weird. If you like this deep dive into the strange side of cartoon history, you're going to love it here at Rerun Zone. So give it a like. Hit that subscribe button and tell me which forgotten cartoons I should dig up next. Also, consider becoming a channel member for as little as 99 cents. It really helps out the channel. This is Rich from Rerun Zone. Thanks for watching, and good night.
Static crackles on a screen tonight. Black and white dreams in the pale moonlight. Spaceships